Hi everyone! Welcome back to our channel. This is Josh from Pitch Exotics, and today we are talking about how you can DIY your cooling reptile hacks for the Philippine summer. So we all know na Philippine summer can be brutal. So kung sa ibang bansa, problema nila yung heating tuwing winter, dito naman sa atin, problema natin yung sobrang init kapag summer or La Nino. Kaya ginawa ko tong video na to. This video is packed with affordable and practical cooling hacks to keep your reptiles safe and comfortable during the hot Philippine summer. So if you're feeling the heat, then probably your pets are too. So without further ado, let's get on to the video. So why does cooling matters? So dito sa atin sa Pinas, pagka summer, it can really push yung temperature natin into dangerous levels, especially for our pet reptiles. Temperatures higher than what they are used to. So unang-una, overheating can cause stress, dehydration, and serious health issues. So it's important na mino-monitor mo yung temperature na enclosures mo daily, lalo na kapag mainit ang panahon. So you, as a keeper, can make adjustments as needed. Which leads us to our next topic, monitoring your humidity and temperature. You should always keep a thermometer and hygrometer in your reptiles enclosure para mas ma-monitor mo ng maayos kamusta yung ambient temperature and humidity sa loob na enclosure nila. May mga nabibiling mura niyan online na 2-in-1 na, so be sure to check them out. You can put this inside your pet's enclosure in an area na madali mo siyang makikita, so it makes it easier for you to check them regularly, especially during the hottest parts of the day. So, if napapansin mong masyadong tumataas yung temperature nila than what is recommended sa kanilang mga care guides, then it's time to try some cooling hacks. I have 5 DIY cooling hacks plus 3 bonus that I can share with you guys. Number 1 is fans and airflow. So, it's important na may maayos na airflow and circulation ng hangin inside and around the enclosure ng alaga mo para hindi sila ma-dehydrate or heat stroke, ganun. If you don't have air vents already sa enclosure mo, make sure that they have one at least each side of the enclosure para yung hangin is dumadaloy sa loob. Unlike sa ibang bansa dito sa atin, naturally mataas ang humidity, so it's not a worry kung medyo marami yung ventilation, gusto mo maglagay ka pa sa top ng air vents, okay lang yun kasi nga naturally mataas yung humidity sa atin. Ang importante sa kanila is may maayos na ventilation yung loob na enclosure nila. If that is not enough, you can also use a small and safe fan to circulate air around the enclosure. Just make sure na hindi siya ganun kalakas and it's not blowing directly at your pet, just enough to keep the air moving around doon sa loob and to prevent heat buildup. So for me, my bearded dragon pancake has her own reptile fan sa loob ng enclosure niya. Since I figured it's already dry and arid dun sa loob ng enclosure niya, a weak reptile fan would be safe and would be a nice addition para sa environment niya. Additionally, sa reptile room or sa reptile rack ko, bumili ako ng parang ceiling fan na may ilaw tapos may fan na rin yun. So, I guess I can link that if interested kayo, but basically, it helps me add more air circulation doon sa loob ng kwarto. So, hindi siya ganun kainit and nakastuck lang yung mainit na hangin sa loob. Next is room temperature management. So, you can either do these two things, no? You can either install an AC or air conditioning unit sa loob ng iyong reptile room, or yung mas sustainable and mas cheaper option is to just place them in a room na may windows. So you can just open those windows para mag-create ng air circulation sa buong kwarto. So cross ventilation during the hottest parts of our day can actually make it cooler sa loob and will help. Next are shade setups. Additionally, during the summer season, I would advise na you avoid placing your reptile racks or enclosures near the window or malapit sa bintana kasi syempre mas malakas yung sikat ng araw and therefore mas naiinitan sila. Or alternatively, you can use a pangharang like cardboard or cortina like blackout curtains just to block off the sunlight and therefore excess heat entering your reptile's enclosure. Okay, so we're done with the external factors na you can control. Next, let's get into misting, hydration, and humid hides. So in case you don't know what misting is, basically, meron kang spray bottle with mineral water as much as possible, or you can also add yung parang electrolytes that are safe for reptiles, and you just mist inside the enclosure perhaps once or twice a week as needed. But again, mataas yung humidity natin sa Pinas, so you probably don't need to do that as much, and it would also depend on the type of species that you are caring for. So ayun nga, you can increase yung misting frequency depending on the type of species you're caring for. For example, ball pythons. They naturally thrive in higher humidity environments. So I cannot tell you kung gaano ka dapat kadalas mag-mist na enclosures. That would depend kung naasang area or region ka ng Pinas. So be sure to check yung care guides ng specific species na inaalagaan mo. And depending on where you live, you can adjust yung misting frequency mo. Next should be a no-brainer, and that is offering them fresh water more often. You might also want to consider using shallow bowls or shallow water dishes, which would give them the option to soak if ever naiinitan sila. Actually, I would highly recommend that you do that, especially during the summer season. Aside from voluntary soaking, you can also offer them humid hides. In a separate video, I already showed you how you can do your own humid hides, but basically, plastic tub or container just big enough para magkasya yung alaga mo, and then maybe onting space para dun sa substrate. Maglagay ka ng sphagnum moss or dried moss, basta moss, and then you spray it down, you mist it para maging humid siya. So you place that inside your enclosure so they can choose to go into it pagka gusto nila ng mas mataas na humidity. This will also help pagka pre-shedding yung alaga. I believe these two terms are called hydroregulation and hygroregulation. So these two options would allow your pet to choose depending on what they need for that day. Next would be handling. Naturally, mas mataas yung body temperature natin than most reptiles, so if you want to handle your pet, I would advise you to do early morning or late evening. So, doon sa parts ng araw na hindi pa ganun kainit. This way, you can avoid stress and overheating. So, those are my 5 DIY cooling hacks for you guys. For my bonus 3, these are either something na hindi ko pa ganun katagal natatry or hindi ko pa natatry personally. So, number 1, frozen water bottles. So, maglagay ka lang ng bote na may tubig, freezer mo, and then once okay na, you can place it on one side of your enclosure, hindi sa loob ha, sa labas. So, it's not directly touching your reptiles. This can create a gentle cooling effect that might be helpful sa reptiles mo, especially pag sobrang init ng panahon. Likewise, you can do this with tiles or rocks. You can place them inside the fridge or the freezer for a few hours. Tas pagka okay na, you can place them near your reptile's enclosure. And also, you can do this with wet towels or cooling mats. You know, yung cooling mats na binibili natin for our pet dogs and cats. You can drape that over part of the enclosure para medyo bumaba or magkaroon ng gentle cooling effect sa part na yon. Okay, next segment is enclosure modifications. So, if you're using glass tanks, yung mga aquarium types, consider na dapat mesh lid yung taas niya for proper ventilation. And if you can, add holes or vents sa magkabilang gilid. But I know this is hard to do, especially sa glass tanks. That's why me, personally, I prefer tubs or mga PVC enclosures. Optional gawin, you can also raise your enclosure from the ground, just slightly to allow better air circulation under. And I hope this is common sense, but avoid overcrowding. Majority ng species ng reptiles ay solitary, so ibig sabihin they should not be kept in a communal enclosure. But there are species na you can keep inside a tank, for example na lang mga garter snakes. Just note na multiple pets in one enclosure can increase heat. So, punta naman tayo sa next segment, which is species-specific tips. So, if you have a bearded dragon, you know na they love basking, they love their heat. But with all reptiles, too much heat can be dangerous. So, be sure na yung enclosure nila is big enough that you can provide a cool area and a cool hide, and that from their basking area, meron siyang sapat na ambient temperature papunta sa kanyang cool area. During this time, you can also offer veggies that are higher in water content like cucumber and lettuce, which normally hindi yan ina-advise kasi nga puro water yung content niya, wala masyadong nutrients. But during the summer season, you can for extra hydration. If you want to mist your enclosures, you can just mist it lightly, and of course, avoid making it too humid. Lastly, you can also choose to soak your bearded dragons at least once a week pagka gantong mainit ang panahon. For me, personally, I do it once a week pagka day off ko, then nilalagyan ko lang ng electrolyte powder. I only soak her for around 10 to 15 minutes sa ilalim ng sikat ng araw para kasabay ng soaking, she is also basking. Napansin ko din na simula inad ko tong routine na to sa amin, mas gumanda yung kulay niya. Kasi dati hindi talaga ako nagsusoak ng bearded dragon. So I've read na soaking can be harmful to their health. But simula nung pumasok yung summer season natin dito sa Pinas, napansin ko nagkakaroon ng wrinkles si Pancake sa tagiliran niya. And that's when I started to soak her once a week. You can also make this enjoyable for your pet bearded dragon by adding plates or moving prey items inside the tub. Just make sure na yung water is something she can safely drink. Okay, next are ball pythons. Ball pythons prefer moderate temperatures and a bit higher humidity than most colubrids that I have. So with the tips I shared kanina, you can try any of those tips. Just make sure you are offering a large water bowl for soaking, especially during the hottest days of our summer. Quick note pala, you should avoid sudden temperature drops or temperature spikes. Gradual cooling is best. Okay, punta naman tayo sa mga colubrids. If you're not familiar with the term colubrids, it's just a term used to refer to the largest family of snakes. So think hognose snakes, horn snakes, king snakes. So from what I researched, ang colubrids, generally tolerant naman sila, but they can suffer stress under extreme heat. You can provide multiple hides, kasama na yung dinascuss ko kanina, which is a humid hide. And you can mist lightly if pansin mong masyadong dry. But if you're using aspen or any other similar substrate na hindi ganun kagaling maghawak ng humidity, then please don't spray or mist kasi that will lead to mold. Me, personally, naka-aspen yung mga colubrid ko na hatchlings. That's why ang binibigay ko is humid hide. If you are misting though, don't overdo it because colubrids generally prefer moderate to low humidity. Okay, next segment. What not to do? Ano yung mga bagay na hindi mo dapat gawin? Like what I've said kanina, hindi ka dapat maglagay ng frozen items directly inside your enclosure or directly on your reptile. Yung mga temperature spikes na tinatawag or drastic temperature changes are harmful and can actually shock your reptile. So gradual cooling is best. Tandaan nyo yan. Also, never use ice packs with chemicals or gels. So if you're a seasoned keeper watching this, perhaps you can share more about your experience and your own tips pagdating sa mga cooling hacks. For the rest of you watching this, if you have questions about summer care and other related reptile questions, please feel free to drop them below and I'll be sure to answer them in the next video. Thanks for watching, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I regularly do videos on best practices when it comes to reptile husbandry and keeping. So if you like this video, stay tuned for more exotic related content, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye!